Number figured out, a motive born in drought and brevity. And if I'm not the soul of your design, I blatantly decline your remedy. Don't box me in, don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine. Wasn't always just a single shade, a palette full of gray in reverie. And I can burn it brighter than the sun. I have a golden gun inside of me. Don't box me in, don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else. And if I fall behind, ignoring all the signs, if I lose the fight, I still rage against the night. Don't box I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine. Simple, dear, I'll still be here when you're gone. You gather souvenirs, but I will never be your pawn, your pawn, your pawn. My love was in ever again. I lay with
Welcome to the Monday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Monday. Welcome, everybody. Oh boy. So lots to talk about, folks. Thank you all for joining. Gary Bennett, John, Lithium, Michael Hasser, welcome, everybody. I don't even know where to start. So just to recap what happened recently, I think this was, what, Friday? The Supreme Court has struck down Trump's tariffs. Obviously, they were illegal. And Trump responded by saying that he was going to raise tariffs right after the Supreme Court said that he couldn't. He was going to raise tariffs to 10% globally, and then he changed his mind and decided that he was going to raise the tariffs to 15%. Of course, it's unclear how that is going to play out, but that is what's happening as of right now. Sandy, welcome. Folks, if you want to support the channel directly before we get into it, please check out the links there. Check out the Substack, check out the merch store tip. Join the Discord, folks, and check out my show on this space every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you, and thank you all for being here. Thank you, Michael Hasser. Appreciate it. Folks, please go show some support to Sandy at Environmental Coffee House. Incidentally, another fantastic This Space contributor. But yeah, that's what's happening right now with the tariffs. So apparently, Trump is going to has defied or means to defy the Supreme Court. Of course, how that is going to play out in the real world, it is unclear. And apparently, war with Iran seems to be on the horizon. It's pretty sketchy stuff, folks. Pretty turbulent times ahead. Pretty turbulent times ahead, but we'll try to navigate this stuff as best as possible.
Let's face it, a lot of Americans are very ignorant and self-centered. Everybody around the world can see it, and we even know this too. But we've been conditioned to be this way because we grew up thinking that the United States was the best country in the world and that no other countries mattered because that's what we were told. Not to mention, when you commodify news and defund public education and disincentivize higher education, you eventually get a population that's paralyzed by its own stupidity. And since we've been taught that selfishness is
like literally that's kind of like that's literally it. And also just to kind of double just to add to that, the dumbification of the country is also quite frankly on purpose too. You need the public to be as least educated as possible in order for you to do your shenanigans, because if they're educated, then they start thinking about what you're doing.
Virtue, so many people don't care or even know about problems unless it affects them personally, which means that Americans who voted for Donald Trump probably aren't going to turn on him until they are personally affected by his harmful policies. The question is, now that we're more than a year into his second term and we're really starting to feel the effects of his policies, are Trump voters finally starting to wake up and realize that they made a mistake? The answer is yes and no. A recent
and also, like, again, I think that the important part is not just that you realize that you made a mistake, but like you also need to understand why this is wrong, right? Like you can't just it just doesn't work if all you do is say, well, this is affecting me, so therefore I don't like it anymore. Like that doesn't tell me that you've engaged in this growth. It just means that you're angry that it's personally affecting you. If it wasn't, then you'd be in favor of it.
New York Times focus group featuring 11 Trump voters had some critiques here and there, but were mostly satisfied, describing Trump as decent, productive, and even awesome. In other words, there's a sizable portion of the population that approves of fascism and cruelty, and even if they're not doing better themselves...
Yeah, of course. There's always a section of the population that is susceptible to this fascist brainwashing or cult, because there's always going to be a section of the population that would be in favor of it.
Economically, all that matters to them is that marginalized people are doing worse. But that's just the main cultists who rented out their brains to Trump a decade ago. A lot of Trump's support in
welcome.
2024 came from waffling independents who voted for him because they delusionally thought that he would be better on the economy, and they didn't really think that the guy who tried to overthrow the last election was actually a threat to democracy, or they didn't care so long as the cost of eggs and gas went down. Now, among those types of voters,
which incidentally, that also didn't happen.
Trump's support has definitely collapsed. CNN's data analyst Terry Antin recently highlighted how Donald Trump is hitting record lows in terms of his approval rating, and Axios reports that multiple polls now show that Trump is even less popular than Biden. Even Rasmussen, one of the...
Oh, that's rough. That's really rough, because like Biden was very unpopular, okay, especially towards the end of his tenure. So the fact that like Trump is now dipping into like Biden territory of unpopularity, that's not great for Trump. Good for us. Good for humanity.
Most right-wing skewed pollsters in the country released a poll showing that Biden had an 8-point advantage over Donald Trump when it came to who they thought did a better job as president. And it's so bad that 30 congressional Republicans are retiring, including 6 senators, because they know that if they don't get off the sinking ship, they're going to go down with it. And another really bad sign for Donald Trump is the sudden cultural shift. A year ago, it seemed like everybody wanted to be on the MAGA bandwagon, but fast forward to today, and the grifters and wave riders are now realizing that the cultural winds have shifted yet again. For example, you have podcaster bros like Andrew Schulz go from, bragging about voting for Donald Trump because he gets pussy to admitting that the left was right about Donald Trump all along. There's also Anna Kasparian, who went from denying that Trump was a fascist to apologizing for doing that. And
kind of apologizing, but okay.
Admitting that she felt stupid for doing it, which she should. But I think that these people, the ones that don't have any actual core beliefs, that simply say what they think people want to hear so they can attract big audiences, they are the canary in the coal mine, so to speak, for Trump's popularity. Because the fact that the people who don't believe anything suddenly have to pretend that they're against Donald Trump, that is a pretty telling sign that the ship is sinking. But let's hear from Trump voters themselves, because surprise, surprise, they're suddenly turning on him now that they're feeling the effects of his policies. Newsbreak shared a quote from
Nadia, welcome. She hasn't backtracked on her turfism. Nope. She has not.
49-year-old West Virginian man who says, I voted for Trump all 3 times. This time I felt like I didn't have a choice because the Democratic candidate was so bad. I've never felt more betrayed by my vote. My partner is losing her federal job. We'll probably lose our house, and ICE is running rampant above the law.
Good. That's what you voted for, right? That's what you voted for. This is insane. Like, I didn't feel like I had a choice because the Democratic candidate was so bad. Yeah, I get that, but like, what are you talking about? Trust me, I get that. I get that, Harris wasn't a good candidate, or even Biden was a great candidate. Terrible people. But to say that like that's why you had to vote for Trump, that's why you had to usher in fascism. You know what? Like, yeah, dude, you voted for all of this. 100%.
With no regard for anyone. This Redditor claims they were an enthusiastic Trump supporter who even wore Latinos for Trump and LGB for Trump shirts, but feels scorned after ICE kidnapped his sister, who's a U.S. citizen. And
yeah, dude, you only cared because it happened to your family? You only cared because the Gestapo came for you? Screw that guy. Seriously, screw that guy. That is exactly what he voted for. I don't know what the sudden change in heart is here, okay? That's exactly what you voted for. You should be happy that your sister got kidnapped by the Gestapo. That's what you voted for, right? These people, I'm telling you. Solidarity. There's a video out there with Kash Patel celebrating with the U.S. hockey team, AI. I saw like Trump also posting like AI photos of himself, inserting himself into the U.S. team's like gold. Wild stuff.
On a similar note, a 59-year-old grandmother who's a green card holder spent nearly 5 months in ICE detention because she bounced a $25 check more than a decade ago. And while she was in an ICE concentration camp, her husband Jim, who voted for Trump in 2024, was panicked, and he wrote to every congressperson in Missouri, but only got a response from a Democrat from Rhode Island who invited him to speak before a panel about his wife's detention. And as the Washington Post reports, at the event, Jim was asked why he voted for Donald Trump. He paused and said, "Because I was an idiot." But even though he eventually got his wife back, he did lose friends for criticizing Donald Trump. Quote, "The partisan backlash has been swift."
Yeah, well, whatever, dude. Like, losing friends because losing... See, like, that's like the cult... that's like the cult thing, right? Like, long-term friends, supposedly, right, who want to... who would abandon you because you abandoned the cult are not your friends, okay? Those people are not your friends. And it goes to show how the cult mentality works, right? If you criticize the dear leader, then you are out. You are out. Good riddance. U.S. has been a military dictatorship with a fake parliamentary dog and pony show since 1944, if not 1876 or longer. Thinking Sabercat. See, I'm not that of that, though, as the West didn't punish the general public after Germany lost World War II. It's better to be magnanimous than a preacher. Well, I mean, I'm not talking about the government. I'm saying society should absolutely ostracize these people. Right? Like, they don't belong in normal society. If they lose friends, if they lose their job, if they lose partners, because they wanted to be a piece of, garbage, then that's on them. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that there isn't a path that they could rejoin society. I'm saying that it's not our job to do that. Sevens, welcome. It was a video that was deleted. Oh, gotcha. I'm going to join you here so I could say hi to Nadia. We should pity MAGAs who lost everything and win them over for the course of democracy. No, I disagree. I don't think that... I disagree. I think that they can fix their own problem. They can fix the problems that they caused over there. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not here to win MAGA. I'm here to wake up the people in general. But I think that it's a wasted effort to try to win over MAGA people. If MAGA people want to turn on MAGA, then that's great. They can do that. They should be doing that. And that's fine. But I'm not trying to win them over. It's not... that ship has sailed. We need a vanguard to actually build democracy, and the people who fell for MAGA, just the latest ploy to make useful idiots out of them are the furthest from that, likely all is equal. Yeah. I don't compromise with people who don't think I'm human. Exactly. And you don't have to. Like, some of them will wake up, it's possible, some won't. It's often impossible to tell what will wake them exactly when. Right, and that's upon them. That's their problem. If they want to wake up and fight against MAGA, then they can do that. Over there.
Longtime friends in the Ruby Red County, where the couple lives, have turned their back on him because he criticized Trump. Meanwhile, more liberal neighbors have said his wife's ordeal is a fitting consequence of his vote. But what's crazy is that even fascist politicians from other countries are feeling the pain of Donald Trump's policies.
Fantastic. You need 51% plus one of the population to make historical change for the positive. True.
I say this because far-right Colombian Congresswoman Angela Vergara, who was a vocal Trump supporter in 2024 and even founded Latinas for Trump and even celebrated Trump's deportations of Colombians, people from her own country, she posted a tearful video to social media after her son, who was in America, was kidnapped by ICE and held in inhumane conditions in an ICE concentration camp. And she pleaded with Petro's government government for help to get him free. But back in the US, specifically in Michigan, Al Jazeera reports that some Yemeni American Trump supporters are speaking out after his regime.
I think our scarce resources and time are best spent organizing ourselves and appealing to those most immediately like-minded. Yeah, like the normies who don't really know what's happening but aren't like fascists. I want those people to wake up. The more liberal-minded people who want to switch over and fight fascism, okay? Who want to fight fascism? Sure, I want those people to fight against fascism. We'll deal with our differences later. But MAGA is not a priority in terms of like trying to activate those people or switch those people. It's just a exercise in futility, if that makes sense. You know, maybe 10 years ago, I would have argued differently, and I would have tried to say that maybe we should be trying to, pump the brakes on the MAGA train before it gets going. But that was kind of already like in motion, and I don't think that there was anything that we could have done. But now in 2026, if you're a MAGA supporter, you're done. You know what I mean? You're done. You don't belong in society. And if people ostracize you, that's a you problem. Maybe you should stop being a piece of crap. At any given point, you know what I mean? At any given point, anyone who's MAGA can just stop being MAGA. And they can stop being a piece of crap. It's really that simple. And it's not our job to try to figure that out for you. You know what I mean? If you're MAGA.
Revoke the temporary protected status for their community. Quote, people feel betrayed. They feel backstabbed, Wali Al-Tahif, a Yemeni American activist in Dearborn, said, adding that the decision to revoke TPS
the tail end of Gamergate was still winding down in 2016.
Yemen will likely separate families in the community. Quote, there was hope that he was going to bring a different direction, different policy towards Yemen and the Yemeni community, but we've seen the opposite, absolutely the opposite. Now, Arab Americans were right to feel betrayed by Democrats in 2024, seeing as how Kamala Harris basically gave them the finger while their administration...
I'm kind of beyond them and us. I think MAGA came from something that won't be fixed by an election. Well, yeah, I mean, you can't vote your way out of fascism. Don't expect the MAGA movement to be destroyed by an election. And it's basically them and us in the sense that like we are trying to create the dynamic that it is the proletariat versus the Epstein class. Okay, that's the two differences. That is the them and us. The problem is MAGA doesn't see that, and it's not our, they should know. They're adults. Okay, a lot of them are. The them and us is the working class versus the Epstein class. Okay, that's the divide. MAGA is an impediment to that, and MAGA is shielding and acting on behalf of the Epstein class, whether they realize this or not. Some of them do, but I don't have time to try to win those people over. Okay, that's not what the priority should be as far as the left. Now can people individually try to change minds of friends, of family, or groups? Yeah, absolutely. There are some people that are capable of doing that. There are some people that are capable of changing those people's minds. Okay, God be with you. But I'm saying, as a general priority for the left, TM, right, the general coalition that everyone calls the quote left, that is not our priority. Our priority is fighting fascism, and our priority is trying to like survive. Okay, that is our priority. Our priority is to survive and fight fascism, not to change people's minds, not to change those people's minds. Yes, but how much of the left were using Gaza as a way to attack the Democrats and Hassan Piker tankies who see we're supposed to be on the verge of civil war? That has nothing to do with the left. Okay, the left was against genocide, and the Democrats decided to abandon that. If people understand that, then why don't they understand that nothing goes away when Trump does, that Vance will take up the torch, no problem. Oh, it doesn't mean that it all of a sudden goes away when Trump goes away. And sure enough, I think Vance is being pretty much groomed to be that successor. It's just a matter of like, I don't believe that the same amount of grip on the cult will be the same. Does that make sense? Like, Vance is on paper more dangerous than Trump. However, how he can maneuver the Trump cult to make that happen is yet to be seen. I think that I think that he will have a much more difficult time than someone like Trump. It doesn't mean that the problem goes away. The problem is capitalism. And Trump and Vance and all these Epstein class oligarchs are not gonna just disappear because an election happened, right? Class war, baby. The wealth, that wealth hoarding, child raping parasites versus everyone else just trying to survive. Exactly. One thing I say, no matter how much we feel threatened or they want to threaten us for any one of us to give up our voices to let them win, and we all know who they are. Right, the Epstein class. The Epstein class. Imagine not settling for anything that's not a Republican is what you're willing to actually take personal risk for, and what amount of risk to be determined. Personal risk beyond showing up every couple years to stand in line to cast a vote. Yeah, seriously. Really, I think America needs a parliamentarian system. I mean, it's better than the one we have now. Yeah. Seriously, have you ever heard Pinochet's voice? Nope. Never heard of never heard Pinochet's voice actually on recording. I would like you to watch my 15-minute video from the other day about how the FBI is going after Extinction Rebellion.
Was giving
Heck
Israel.
yeah, I can put a link to it. I can put a link to it. I mean, we might have time. We might have time. Let me see. This was 2 days ago. FBI probe into the Extinction Rebellion. I think this one's it. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. I'll send it to you. I got you. I got you. Check it out. You can understand the recordings are out there. Simplicissimus had a video. Pinochet's voice was super nasal and high pitched for a man's voice. Really? Does he sound like a little B with a little P? Yep. I mean, is he a fascist? If he's a fascist, then yeah.
The bombs that they were dropping on the heads of their family members in Palestine. So I fully understand why they felt so mad and why so many of them chose to stay home or vote third party. But this individual affirmatively voted for Donald Trump, which I just can't rationalize, seeing as how, one, it was clear that Trump would be worse on Israel-Palestine than Kamala Harris, and two, in Trump's first term, he literally vetoed a bill that would have ended our government's complicity with Saudi Arabia's genocide in Yemen. So I feel like a lot of people, they lie to themselves and they tell themselves that his cruelest policies won't affect them. But so many of them are finding out the hard way that that's simply not the case, which is why...
Yeah, Pinochet sounded ridiculous. He would have been a laughingstock without power. Yeah, especially in today's world? Nah. He has a cult following obsessing about how he threw leftists out of a helicopter far out to sea till this day. Yeah, these people exist. They're still, there are still Nazis out there till this day. It's not gonna just, snap your, Trump losing or Trump being gone or J.D. Vance being gone. It doesn't mean that all of these people are gonna go away. It's just a matter of like how much societal capital these people control, right? How much societal capital these people control.
I think it's more important than ever to try to foster universal solidarity, because even if you might not be personally affected by something immediately, it will catch up to you at some point. This is why immigrant rights is your fight too, even if you're not an immigrant. It's why trans rights is your fight too, even if you're not trans.
Yep.
It's why Palestinian rights is your fight too, even if you're not Palestinian.
Right, because like it's all the fundamental thing is human rights, right? If trans people don't have human rights, you don't have human rights. If immigrants don't have human rights, you don't have human rights. Does that make sense? If a trans person doesn't have a right to self-determination and bodily autonomy, you don't have the right to bodily autonomy. Does that make sense? If an immigrant doesn't have the right to due process, you don't have the right to due process. So yes, trans people's rights are our fight. Immigrants' rights are our fight. Palestinian rights are our fight. If they can worship Pinochet during his actual reign, how can the cult not line up behind JD Vance just for being a little uninspiring? Yeah, no, I agree that there'll be people that will still be there. It's just not gonna be the same. It's just a matter of like how much social capital will they be able to capture, and I don't know if he'll have the same ability like someone like Trump, because despite how absurd Trump is, somehow, just like Pinochet somehow managed to like command social capital that people still somehow, joke about throwing left-wing people out of helicopters. Yeah, just a matter of like how that's going to turn out. I suspect that JD Vance just doesn't have the same amount of sauce. It doesn't mean that the problem is solved, if that makes sense. I hope you can come back with us on Wednesday night for Left Past 10 and Alex too, because the foreseeable future Jake is out. So I think the four of us really hit it off. I should ask you not on a public chat. No, it's all good. The answer to that is most likely yeah. The answer to that is most likely yes. I would say like about an 80% chance yes. I don't see why not. The right wing doesn't believe in the concept of rights. True. As you can definitely tell by the genuine shock they have right when another one of their own latches at the rabbit jaws about their throat always takes them by surprise. Yep. Manju Misty, welcome. Kirkenstein's monster. Just my perception of my might in the moment makes my right, and a perception often proven faulty. As you can tell by the look of the genuine shock they have, right when another one of quote their own latches their rabbit jaws about their throat always takes them by surprise. Yep.
Because
exactly.
If you give the government permission to violate the human rights of one group of people, you're giving them permission to do it to you too, albeit at a later date. We have to recognize our collective humanity and internalize the struggle of all marginalized.
Yeah, I agree. Trump himself was super obviously senile in 2015 with his confabulating wildly and the weird makeup he wears. How on earth is that inspiring a cult? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense other than it inspires. It inspires the right people. It's not logical. There's nothing logical because it never was about logic to begin with. As heat comes in, it's about the racism and what. Yeah, it's about what Trump symbolizes, regardless of how absurd he is. He somehow manages to do that. He's got that sauce. He's got that sauce with the white supremacists, and that's what works. In a normal world, he wouldn't fly. In a normal world, the fact that he openly admitted to like assaulting women, going into girls' changing rooms, it wasn't the end of it. You know what I mean? So it doesn't make any sense, but neither does fascism. Neither does fascism. It's manufactured media image to a degree. Yeah. Our media is not exactly useful either. Not helping either. He's dumb enough to say the quiet parts out loud. Yeah, and people like that. Those people do. I think Americans are going to start vanishing in the night. This post found disturbing, and it is exactly the same thing as the Bosnian mass collection of people under, quote, security. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have links, but yeah, people are already disappearing. It's not just immigrants. Frontal temporal lobe dementia. He has all the signs, and it's not Alzheimer's. We wish it would be Alzheimer's because he would deteriorate much more quickly. He literally believes his own lies. I think so. I believe he does. I believe that whatever slop he gets fed in the morning is what he believes and what he truly believes. Like whoever's actually like, running the show, your JD Vances, your Stephen Millers, and whatnot, they just put whatever slop that Trump needs to agree to, and that's it. And he believes that. Like, he believes he won the 2020 election when he didn't. It's Bloomberg about ICE buying all large warehouses. Oh, yeah. I think we went over some of that the other day. Yeah. They're not buying these extra large warehouses for deportations. Okay? People have been disappearing since the 90s or earlier. True. Yeah, they're not doing this to for deportations. It's preparation.
As people, if we ever want things to change, because we're just not free until everyone is free. And I try to refrain from saying that term because I think a lot of people think it's a cliche, but I promise you it is the absolute truth. You have to fight for liberation of all marginalized people if you truly want to live in a free society and be free yourself. But I don't want to make it seem like Trump supporters are just like, they're not coming to their senses until their lives are ruined by his policies, because some of them, they're just starting to realize things aren't getting better, and that's all they needed to turn away from him. Case in point, Navigator published results from a focus group featuring 2020.
Mattel celebrating with Team USA. Yeah, I saw. Ladybug brought that up. They're also buying industrial microwaves which break down organic matter to dust. Well,
for Trump voters from battleground states, and
we've all seen this story before.
Unlike the New York Times focus group we looked at earlier, these Trump voters were much more critical because their lives simply aren't getting better fast enough. Here's some quotes. All of our prices have gone sky high for necessities. Our utilities have raised, our mortgage, the interest rates, the food in the grocery store. Everything has gone up except my wages, and it's making it harder and harder to make ends meet. Wages are not
maybe if you would have paid attention, right? Maybe if you would have paid attention to what the left was talking about with regards to capitalism, it would click in your mind as to why wages aren't keeping up with expenses. Okay? In fact, I would argue that if you want to understand capitalism, perhaps you should actually view it from a leftist perspective. If you want to understand capitalism and how it works and what the problems are, perhaps you should take a look at it from a Marxist perspective, because you would actually understand how capitalism actually works, not the dogmatic slop that you're fed, but how capitalism actually works.
Up with expenses. Basically, what I'm seeing is that corporations are going to start doing a lot better than they have, and regular people are not going to be doing so great. So overall, the economy is going to have some great numbers, but you're not going to see them.
Yeah, the left always gets first. The people that they call socialist or the left or Antifa, those are the people that are going to seriously get rounded up first, assuming that this isn't stopped.
That in your wallet. And to add insult to injury, they also feel like
people from the LGBTQ community and immigrants, they're like the the degenerates of society that need to be dealt with.
Isn't
as
even
well.
trying to make things better. Here's some more quotes. People voted for Trump because we thought we were going to get lower costs of living, to some degree at least, and everything has just increased in price. I have an EBT card, and it's a lot harder to prove certain things in order to qualify for that. So just little things like that, they all add up, and I think that they need to focus more on us rather than on other countries. I have a lot of folks that rely on the Obamacare health exchanges, and health insurance premiums are skyrocketing, and there's not even really a plan in place for how to address that kind of front and center. Trump's
Yeah, because there was never a plan to address healthcare. The plan was for you to go die. Okay, if you can't pay for your healthcare and you cannot afford the ACA premiums that have like skyrocketed, I've seen this firsthand, by the way. Then you can just die, right? Like that's easy. Just die.
said one of his biggest and
The Republican health plan is just for you to die.
first actions when he was in office was to handle inflation, and that was not done. That was backed off and not put as a priority, and it's still an issue for all of the American people. And we're not going to go through all of this, but they're also vocally dissatisfied with the mass deportation policy that they voted for. And get this, some even liken Trump's actions to a Hitler-style dictator and refer to ICE as the Gestapo. So it seems like once they fight through the cognitive dissonance and admit that they're disappointed, that's when they'll finally start to condemn the cruelty towards other people, even if it doesn't affect them personally. So they'll basically deny that he's a fascist right up until they're personally dissatisfied. And once he's no longer meeting their personal expectations, that's when the whole truth comes out. And I kind of get the sense that they knew he would be cruel to immigrants, because how could you not? But they were willing to overlook that so long as they thought that he would improve the economy for them. But, you know, now that we're
concepts
a
of a
year
plan.
in and things have only gotten worse, they're starting to realize that the trade-off wasn't worth it. See, they'll only
Yeah, like they'll go after the left and you'll be fine with it. They'll go after trans people and you'll be fine with it. They'll go after immigrants and you'll be fine with it until it's you, right? Until it's you. And until the reality, the hard reality that no amount of propaganda can overrun that, the harsh reality that things aren't getting better and that the fascist machine is turning on you, that's when they'll wake up. And it seems to me that some are, but again, you need to fix that. This is your bit you're doing. Go fix that over there. And go solve the problem that you caused. You should Google EU zero trade, as they put in a safety valve in Brussels that if Trump tries to put in hard tariffs again, they will cut off everything. Good. I mean, they should just embargo us.
All the way
really.
to-
Like, honestly. Trump has already said that he's going to defy. Trump has already openly defied the Supreme Court, saying that he's going to put a 15% tariff across the board. So they should just cut us off. Yeah, the godless communists, and it's already happening. Talk is merely strategic to them. What's being announced is not the reality of what they're doing, because they're liars and everything they say is mere strategic deception, or so I was forewarned. Yeah, I mean, like, it's possible, but also, like, I don't know. These people aren't exactly... They're smart enough just to be this evil. But yeah, absolutely. What they say is not what they are doing. An example is this Iran thing. Is this Iran thing? The example was the Venezuela thing. We don't want to do regime change, and then they show up to kidnap Maduro.
a high level of cruelty insofar as they think the payoff will be lower
100%.
price.
They're 1,000% liars. None of what they say can be actually trusted. Yeah, I mean, it's true. The most crazy thing is the amount of Cubans now being threatened to send Cuban exiles back to Cuba. I'm likely sending. It's like you're sending them there to deaths or imprisonment.
Is at the grocery store. But if there's no benefit to the cruelty, then they'd rather not see it. At least that's kind of how I interpret what their thinking is. Maybe that's too uncharitable, but I mean, look, it's possible. Some of them still do have hearts, and seeing overt cruelty and racism genuinely does disgust them. That's possible. It is
Not a lot
hard
of
to
them.
imagine, though, that like you oppose racism and vote for
It's not a lot of them, okay? That genuinely come to the realization that this is a fundamentally fascist, racist, xenophobic movement. Not a lot of them, okay? It's going to be very, very rare.
Donald Trump. Like, this seems like two very mutually exclusive things. Like, how could you be against racism and support somebody who's pretty explicitly racist and never even tries to hide it. I mean, I guess it's theoretically possible if you're extremely ignorant, but I mean, one Trump supporter called into C-SPAN and indicated that it really was Trump's overt racism.
I mean, half of the American public can't read at like a sixth grade level. So yeah, I mean, these are the kind of people that we're dealing with. Okay.
That was the straw that broke the camel's back, even though he too was suckered by the promise of prosperity.
Voted for the president, supported him, but I really want to apologize. I mean, I'm looking at this awful picture of the
Yeah, and unfortunately, dude, unfortunately, like, we're way past apologizing. Okay, when you've done this such horrible stuff, okay, in the year of our Lord in 2026, okay, it's not apologies mean nothing. You've got to get out there and do the work. You've got to get out there and try to fix this. Okay, over there. Apologies and acknowledging what you've done is good, but that ain't enough. Okay, that means squat if you're not gonna be willing to get out there and do the work, because there is a lot of work for these people to do, assuming that they want to redeem themselves. Reading at the sixth grade level used to be called functionally illiterate. Yeah, well, I mean, look what we're dealing with here. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. I think it really is true about the intelligence level of most MAGA in most cases. Yeah, I mean, it's across the board. It has to be that way, right? That's how you keep a cult cohesiveness for like that. Education, critical thinking is highly discouraged. It's why you end up noticing that a lot of conservatives aren't really that smart. They're not really that read. They don't understand basic concepts that should be so easy. You would imagine it's common sense or just a given, but they don't understand these concepts. There's a reason why they're a conservative. At least a lot of the supporters are. The crazy in UK over immigration is bizarre, of course, because it always is. We have reform that are now being pushed out of the way by Restore Britain that want to clear all non-whites out of the UK, all secretly paid by Putin. What's up, woke losers? It's your favorite president, me. Waking up from my sleep at a priest conference. I can never stay awake. I'm an old and tired man. You know, Sleepy Joe Biden. You know, they talk a lot about Sleepy Joe Biden, but not me. Not me. I only sleep a little bit. Just a little bit, you know.
Obama's. What an embarrassment to our country.
Yeah, by the way, this was an actual video posted by the president.
All this man does is tell lies. He is not worthy of the presidency.
And yet you put him there.
He takes bribes blatantly, and now he's being a racist. Blatantly,
and yet you put him there. This isn't news, by the way. Like, this isn't breaking news. President does racist thing, right? And shocking image. Donald Trump does a racism. That's not news, dude. This has been known. Taking bribes and being a con man has been the MO of his entire career, quote unquote. Everything has been a con from beginning to end, from Trump University to Trump Steak to the. Is there a business that Trump has been a part of that hasn't been some kind of like a fraudulent rug pull con? Because I can't think of any. The other option, well, I should rephrase. The other option is either it's one a big con and a fraud, or two, it just goes bankrupt and then he sells it for scraps. Why does it lie? I'll forgive them. I just need the same enthusiasm as they had for the first January 6th. For a second one, they could start with making amends there. The plan to divide NATO was thought of by Putin's spin doctor in 2011, done first in Russia. Now it's spread over the EU, UK, and US, even in Japan and South Korea. The concept is to break up unity. Yeah, well, I mean, sure. Whatever. I mean, Putin has his own plans, but at the end of the day, like, we're responsible for us, right? The open thing is kind of an obvious, hey, it's not your own rich pedophilic lead, it's those scary godless communist Russians. I mean, but like, it's also, it's both, right? Like, all these people, all these oligarchs, all of this is operating under the same branch, right? Like, all of these people are operating on the same branch. Whether it be your Putin oligarch, like Russia's oligarchical government, whether it be our government, whether it be, it doesn't matter. Like, the whole underpinning problem is always the same. They just like to throw around whatever excuses, but it's all the same problem. Always a grift. I'm convinced he pocketed the tariff money. Probably, because he seemed pretty upset about how that's going to play out in terms of the money. So God knows.
Supposed to deport the dangerous criminals. They were not supposed to go after small children, storm schools, bring terror upon,
Well, if only there were signs.
the little kids and the women and children. Not
If only
just
there were signs.
the immigrants in the school. All the children are scared.
Average American voter, by the way.
This is not a decent man. This is not an honest man. He openly takes bribes. He's pathetic as a president, and I just want to apologize.
And yet you put him there. This is not news. This was known about him for a long time.
To everybody in the country for supporting this rotten man.
John, did you vote for him in all three elections?
I did. I was sucked into the
I mean, there's nothing left to say. Tropical Ding Dong, it's my favorite parasocial midday streamer.
stupidity of creating jobs, and there
Live
are
from
no
the
more jobs.
So he was pulled in by the promise of jobs in 2016, and presumably the same in 2020 and again in 2024. And then after seeing how unhinged Trump is, he's now realizing, oh, okay.
Live from the industrious, ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America.
Maybe this guy wasn't so great. It's just really hard to believe that. Having said that, though, he does seem
FAFO, no sympathy.
genuinely
Yeah, I have no
remorseful
sympathy
for
any of
his
these people.
votes, and I felt like he was probably crying. Like, it's hard to tell, but it sounded like he was crying. I don't know. But I feel like the only way you'd only just now find out that Trump is a racist in 2026 is if you've lived in a cave for all of these years. So again, I have no
It
idea.
actually reminds me of the Jonestown cult. I would say it's worse because, like, Jesus, the social phenomenon, the social capture that this broke containment. Okay, this broke containment. This broke containment. I thought you were going to say live from Polycule Studios. Live from the Polymarket Polycule Studios.
This is a case of,
performative contrition. Who knows? Maybe.
oh, well, now I can admit that he's racist now that I have no incentive to support him. Or a case of, oh my God, I supported a monster all these years. What have I done? And maybe just the Obama racist monkey meme is the thing that was the wake-up call for him. I don't know. Unfortunately, I think it's probably the more cynical take because, again, so many Americans, they never even consider how their actions will affect other people until it affects.
And like these are grown adults. These are grown adults, okay? Like how much like sympathy and hand holding are we supposed to do here in the year of our Lord 2026? Okay, when you can just Google these things, when you can just listen to the stuff that he's said for decades, okay? This is not new, okay? Trump being a creepy pedophile is not news, okay? It's not news. What's news is that there's pen to paper, there's black and white evidence in the Epstein files that show that he is. There's multiple accounts of children that he's abused, he's bought from Epstein. He himself has been on camera bragging about how he sexually assaults women. He has been an adjudicated sexual assaulter. That's not up for debate. That was a court case. Okay? That's not up for debate. He is a sexual assaulter. He is a pedophile rapist. That's all there, black and white. This isn't news. The fact that he was a con man isn't news either. Well, we've seen the Tea Party or Satanic Panic event at the Heavy Metal Panic with the moral majority crooks, but the belief in a man being chosen by God and how he's something different, and the talk of him that bears nothing based in reality is like a religious cult. Yeah, because it is. It's infused with this Christo-fascist, Christo-nationalist flavor that he kind of somehow has been put at the front of all this.
Them personally. It's what we're seeing from a lot of the people that we heard from today, and it's what we saw from Trump supporting farmers who were collectively skull-fucked by his tariffs. But another group that you would never expect to turn on Donald Trump is Republican billionaires. And to be clear, they haven't turned on Donald Trump. I'm sure they're very enthusiastically happy about what they're seeing, but at least one of them has gone on the record and said, hey, this is actually pretty fucked up, because even though he knows what Trump is doing has been amazing for his class, there's one thing that he acknowledges that will one day come back to bite them all in the ass. As Mediaite reports, Republican mega donor Ken Griffin condemned Donald Trump's blatant corruption, and he vocalized fears that billionaires might lose control of the monster that they helped to create, saying business leaders are concerned about getting trapped in a loop of government coercion. And he
that's fascism works. It's like it's like a loop, man. We're doing a loop. Here we go. 2026, we're doing the loop. Most CEOs, the capital class back in the 20s were fearing a socialist revolution, and they turned to somebody that they thought that they can control, who was willing to do their dirty work. And lo and behold, spoiler alert, they couldn't control him in the 20s and 30s, I guess, when Hitler was more like mid 30s, mid 20s, late 20s to 30s, right? Anyways, they couldn't control him, and here we are. And here we are. The May 26 Portuguese coup d'etat.
Most CEOs just don't want to find themselves
here we are
in the business of having to, in some sense, suck up to one administration.
I don't appreciate this loop. Me neither. When I said I wanted to like study history and like kind of like wonder how did it get, to the point in history in the 20s, I didn't mean like I wanted a IRL lesson and run through, okay? That's not what I signed up for. I did not sign up for an IRL run through of the 20s
after another to succeed in running their businesses. Yeah. I mean, maybe it was a bad idea to prop up an authoritarian fascist who demands unconditional loyalty, but who knows? Now, to be fair to Ken Griffin, which we don't have to be fair to, by the way, but to be fair to him, he didn't endorse Donald Trump explicitly. Nonetheless, he still supported him in a roundabout way by giving millions and millions of dollars to the Republican Party in 2024. And since the Republican Party is...
I'm putting the bet down now. It's going to be Tucker Owens in the 2028 ticket. They're going to capture the movement. I mean, certainly... It's certain. Certainly, but how would the movement feel about, like, Tucker? I get, but like how would the movement feel about Candace Owens? Okay, the monkey paw curls. Yeah, exactly. Like, hey man, look, I just asked for a history lesson, not a history lesson. Okay, Jesus Christ.
Party of MAGA, he's still emboldened the fascist dictator who he's now complaining about. But a lot of the regretful Trump simps that we've heard from today, they were mostly personally affected by his policies in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it'd be Fuentes Carlson before it is Carlson Clandis, before Carlson and Clandis. Yeah, I think they could be happy using her as a token in the right conditions. Maybe, but I don't know. I don't know. That would be a rough one. That would be a rough one to sell. Even though, like, she probably agrees and endorses all their ideology, it's like I don't know. They heat that shit up. You think so? I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't. Maybe I don't got the pulse on the MAGA movement like I used to. It amazes me that we see the decadence of Western elites in front of our eyes. Leftists can still look at overseas and point the finger at Russia. I don't know if that's what's happening. I'm saying, or other chatters are saying. Maybe I misunderstood. But yeah, I mean, the point is, it's capital across the board, if that makes sense. And you're right, we've got our we got like, you know, we got to solve the problem here. When you posted that Obama video, the market went up 200 to 400%, or maybe 1200%. Maybe I don't know. I didn't catch that. Maybe bet then if it's Tucker Owens, then you owe me. Then you have me on stream and we do a tier SF ranking on leftist streams. Only if I get S tier. Only if I get an S tier. It's a delicate game. The moment that person forgets their place, say Tim Scott, daring acknowledging how racist AF Trump is. Finally, oh boy, you'll never see a more rabid group of whites. But that's what I'm saying. Like, is that how that's gonna play out? I don't know, because like, meaning some companies are still going with Trump. Yeah, of course. Fascism is capitalism in crisis, right?
But some of them,
I'm still here, but I can't chat because my phone is about to dead. Going to plug it in. Love your show, Carlos.
may not
Thank
be
you.
affected
Appreciate
personally,
it,
but they're mad because their expectations aren't matching reality. For example, in the podcast sphere, right-wing influencer Sean Ryan recently ranted about how disappointed he was that Epstein's former best friend and his cronies, like Pam Bondi, are handling the Epstein files so goddamn poorly.
What was the excuse? Oh, if we prosecute everybody, the whole system would go down. Well, you know what that sounds like? That sounds like how Trump ran his campaign. Let's drain the swamp. Doesn't that sound a lot like draining the swamp? It actually is drain the swamp served up to you on a fucking silver platter.
Always has been. Always has been. I bet the future of Republicans is graperism. True, it's already here. True. Yeah. No doubt about it. That's where it's going, because that's where that that's the path that ideology has set for it. A while ago. That's the path that they've carved themselves for themselves. My point is, they're happy. They're just happy enough to allow the right token to ride the ticket. Possibly, Figueroa has gone Fidel on bottom, Zuck on top. I have no idea what that means. Chat, use code words or quotation marks for non-approved words. Makes sense to me. Live from Polymarket Studios. Welcome, Bruno. His hairdo. Oh. I was so confused. The Young Republican group chat say Groyperism. Yeah.
But you're not going to take it,
100%.
are you? You're going to protect pedophiles. You're going to protect pedophiles rather than go after them and hope that everybody's
You're going to protect pedophiles rather than go after them. Why is that? Let's use our
happy
brain
that
here.
the
Why
Dow
is
hit
that?
50,000. Are you fucking out of your mind? I guess the whole drain the swamp campaign promise was another fucking bullshit lie, huh? Man, the lies are stacking up fast. I've never seen so many fucking lies appear in, what, a year? It's only been a fucking year. Look at all the fucking lies.
Yeah, man, I just wish that there was a way we could have known that Trump would have been a huge liar. Like, if he was president before and told more than 30,000 provable lies or something. If only we had that piece of information, then maybe we could have known that he would have been a little bit dishonest. It's so exhausting. I'm so tired because none
I know, thinking Sabercat. Putin is not a good guy.
of this is surprising to anyone who paid even a little bit of attention. The problem is that Americans don't pay attention, ever. You know, it's partially not their fault since they're tired and overworked, and it really is hard to keep up. But it also is their fault, seeing as how Trump couldn't have possibly been any more clear, and a 5-minute Google search about his policies would have made them infinitely more prepared before they casted their votes. But I don't want to complain too much because
Right. So in other words, these people intentionally chose that and now are hemming and hawing because the chickens have come home to roost and they're upset about it. Some of them are. The people in the video are upset.
is good to see his support collapse. Like, beggars can't be choosers, so I'm glad this is happening. But the problem is that once you open the door to authoritarianism, it's really fucking hard to close it. I'm crossing my fingers for us, but that's going to require Americans to do the bare minimum and at least try to inform themselves for once if they want to get us out of this mess and not just gobble up bullshit spewed by cable news pundits and podcasters like it's gospel. Stop doing that, and maybe, just maybe, in the future, we'll be in a better place.
Do yourself a favor and click the join button on YouTube.
Do yourself a favor. Leftists are against all racism except for Russophobia. The Russians that I have met were people too. 100%. Yeah, no one's saying that either. 100%. All right, folks, we got a couple of articles to go through. The State Department orders non-essential diplomats to leave Lebanon as tensions with Iran soar. So as I was talking about earlier, it seems like strikes on Iran or Iran are I don't want to say imminent, but very likely within soon. Who knows with this guy, but soon. The United States has ordered non-essential diplomats and their family members at the U.S. Embassy in Beirut to leave Lebanon, the State Department said Monday, as tension over Iran with the threat of a potentially imminent military strike. The department said in an updated travel alert for U.S. citizens in Lebanon that ordered the departure of non-emergency U.S. government personnel and family members for government personnel due to security situations in Beirut. The alert, which was formally released several hours afterward, began to circulate around the move. U.S. personnel remaining in Lebanon would have their in-country travel restricted. A department official said earlier that a continuous assessment of the regional security environment determined it was prudent to draw down U.S. Embassy Beirut's footprint so that only essential personnel remain at their posts. This is not good news. This is not good news. Do yourself a favor and click unsubscribe from Woke ADT. He always tells lies about your favorite president. You know me. I've been beaten so hard with these MSNDNC people. You know, they hit so hard against your favorite president. All I've done is done good things for the country. You know, have you seen the Dow lately? Campus are the ones who refuse to acknowledge Putin as a far-right ideology. He does. I mean, I'm not like a big fan of Putin. I'm just saying that the problems are all the same. And it's fundamentally like capitalism, right? It's fundamentally capitalism, and I'm not interested in having like an argument or whatever, a debate. It's a matter of, look, we all know who the issue is, right? It's the capital class. So like, the issue is the capital class, the Epstein class. All of these billionaire and oligarchs, okay? It's not just the oligarchs here, but I'm saying across the board. Just like the whole Dow thing is wild, you can just, when you can spell it out, which is to say there's no moral wrong as long as capitalists are making sufficient profits. Yep. Did you watch the Olympics? Not much, honestly. It explains that well, how Putin plays the left and the right against each other. Yeah, but again, I'm not. I just don't. My problem is like everybody needs to focus. Okay, I don't give a shit about Putin. He's not right here. He's not right here, at least in the United States. Okay. Has he done some effed up stuff? Yeah. Yeah, is Putin a good guy? No. Why? Because he's probably part of that capital class. Everything that you can levy at everything that fundamentally is wrong with anything that's fundamentally wrong with like the Russian politics, it can essentially be distilled and copy pasted here. As long as the line is going up, everything is in fact fine. I'm not, yeah, exactly. It's like the honest statement of bourgeois values. As long as the line is going up, everything in fact is fine. Right. I'm talking about, I'm not calling campus anyone in this chat for the record. I'm talking about, talking of that left who's anti-LGBTQ. They are not the left. Anyone who's anti-LGBTQ plus is not, the left. So what I hear you say is there's some sort of international class war going on, something like that. It has been informed. Okay, I've been informed by sources. Okay, I've been informed by people and sources and things that there may be or maybe not or allegedly there is some sort of international class war where there's two classes and they are everywhere. They're not unique to the United States. As it turns out, and again, this is just I've been advised that this is what's happening, and this capital class, this Epstein class, this bourgeois has in its interest to keep the others, i.e. the working class, down, and they will go to great lengths and do horrific stuff to make that happen. At least that's what I've been told. That's what it's been advised to me. Are you still talking about the Russia hoax? You know, so bad for our country. You know, almost as bad as the Epstein thing. Are we still talking about Epstein? Who's Epstein? Jody Brower and Paul Crockshott and George Galloway are not my cup of tea. Pseudo-leftist is a good description for those who take on leftist aesthetics, whether of a genuinely held belief or a deliberate attempt to sow discord mendaciously. Think of your Jimmy Dores, right? Think of your Anna Kasparians, who kind of take on or took on this facade of leftist kind of or pretended to be some kind of progressive left-leaning leftist person. And then that fell apart real quickly once the chips were down, right? You know. Anyways. And then actually piss all over the universal humanist value, then at least in my opinion, record what makes the left actually right from what is the actual best society possible for the greatest number of people perspective, which is my metric. Yep. The official who spoke on condition of an anonymity before the move was formally announced said that it is a temporary measure that the embassy will remain operational. Lebanon has been the site of numerous Iran-related retaliatory attacks against U.S. facilities, interests, and personnel for decades, given Tehran's support for and influence within the Hezbollah militant group. Ooh. Hey, you know what also would prevent any of this happening? You know what would prevent a retaliation? Maybe, and this is just a wild concept that I'm just throwing out here. You know, maybe we shouldn't bomb them. I know it's a crazy concept, but maybe if we don't bomb a country, they will not retaliate. I don't know. This is just like a wild concept that I've just drawn up in my head right now. Okay, as we're talking about this story. But maybe if you don't bomb somebody, they won't take retaliatory attacks on you. Yeah, moral cowards, maybe they draw their line at their property taxes, we don't know. With the Hezbollah militant groups, which is held responsible for the deadly bombings of Marine barracks in Beirut in 1983 and an embassy annex in 1984. As such, changes in the staffing status of the embassy in Beirut have often been seen as a bellwether for potential U.S. or Israeli military action in the region, particularly against Iran. A similar order departure was imposed for Beirut at other embassies in the region, including Iraq, shortly before President Trump ordered the military strikes against Iranian nuclear facilities last June, which we were told that their nuclear plan was incapacitated, but now apparently they're 1 week away from nuclear bombs. Okay, fantastic. It was unclear if other American embassies in the Middle East would implement similar orders. I agree that Putin betrayed the Russian people when he stopped going after the oligarchs if they agreed to back him or stay out of politics, but that's not how Russia works, though. But should the Russian people be blamed? Nope, and I don't think anybody blames the Russian people. Not anybody that I know here. Um, Not anybody that I know. Why would we blame the Russian people? Why would we blame the Iranian people? Why would we blame whatever, why would we blame that? That doesn't make any sense. Tensions have escalated between U.S. and Iran. No. Trump has Trump's the one escalating. Okay, there's no equal escalation here. Just to be clear, Trump has the United States has unilaterally been escalating this for a while and repeatedly threatened action. Trump has built up the largest military presence in the Middle East in decades and repeatedly threatened action if Tehran does not negotiate a deal to constrain its nuclear program that was not supposed to be existing, that we destroyed supposedly. A second aircraft carrier is heading to the region to join a surge of American warships and aircraft, offering the Republican president several options for a potential strike, even as talks may continue. Oman's foreign minister Badr al-Busaidi said the U.S. and Iran plan to hold their next round of nuclear talks Thursday in Geneva. A U.S. official was not authorized to comment publicly and spoke on the condition of anonymity, confirmed the meetings. Iran's top diplomat Abbas Araghchi told CBS on Sunday that he expects to meet U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff and then said a good chance remained for a diplomatic solution on the nuclear issue. Araghchi said he proposed a deal that would be ready to share within days. He told CBS that Iran was still working on it. Asked Friday whether the U.S. talk could take limited military action as the countries negotiate, Trump said, I guess I can say I'm considering that. He also told reporters later that Iran better negotiate a fair deal. Indirect talks between longtime adversaries in recent weeks have made little visible progress. Beyond the nuclear program, Iran has refused to discuss wider U.S. and Israeli demands that it scale back its missile program and sever ties to armed groups. A second State Department official, also speaking on condition of anonymity, to discuss plans that have not been formally announced, said Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Little Marco, may delay his intended visit to Israel this weekend. So, I mean, that's a good bellwether right there. Yeah, that's a good bellwether right there. So take that with a grain of salt, but pay attention this weekend or maybe a week and a half from now. We may wake up to the news that we've bombed Iran. To kind of just cement this assertion, because I do think that he's seriously considering doing this. I think that he seriously is considering doing this. Trump's top general warns of Iran strike risks. Joint Chiefs Chairman General Dan Kane has been advising the president and top officials that a military campaign against Iran could carry significant risk, in particular the possibility of becoming entangled in a prolonged conflict. Yeah. You think? According to two sources with knowledge of those internal discussions, there's an ongoing debate at the top levels of the Trump administration about how to handle Iran's standoff and the consequences of what each option would be. The option is to just F off, right? Like, the option is to just leave them alone, right? Like, that's an option. At the moment, several of the voices in Trump's inner circle are urging caution, though some sources think Trump himself is leaning towards a strike. Fantastic. On the other side, reaching a nuclear deal would likely mean walking back some of the president's previous red lines. As Trump debates whether and how to attack Iran, his envoys, Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, have been urging the president to hold off and give diplomacy a chance. This account of where members of Trump's top team stand is based on a conversation with 5 sources who have sat or been in briefings on the high-level meetings. Kane's position could be particularly influential because he's Trump's top military advisor and is highly respected by the president. No one is advocating for an invasion or boots-on-the-ground military action, the sources said. Because that would not, no. They would just do what America does and just bomb them because they're not trying to occupy Iran. That's not what they're trying to do. Anyways, just as with the planning of the operation to capture Nicolás Maduro, you mean kidnap a president of a foreign country? Trump has empowered a small brain trust. I know that's not what that means, but okay. to think through problems in Iran and present him with a range of options he can exercise at a time of his choosing that maximizes leverage and minimizes risk. While Kane was all in the Venezuela operation, the coup, he's been more cautious in the discussions around Iran, two sources said, citing that contrast. One source described Kane as a reluctant warrior on Iran. Kane sees the stakes as a major operation in Iran as higher, with a greater risk for entanglement and American casualties. Oh. Oh ho ho. Ho ho. One source said Kane was not advocating for a strike, but will support and execute on any decision Trump makes. Fantastic. Another source with direct knowledge of Kane's thinking said the chairman is not skeptical about a military campaign, but clear-eyed and realistic about the chances for success and what could come next after war starts. A senior official also denied Kane had expressed skepticism. In his role as military advisor to the President, Secretary of Defense, and National Security Council, the chairman provides a range of military options as well as secondary considerations and associated impacts and risks to civilian leaders who make America's security decisions. The chairman provides these options confidentially, Joint Staff spokesman Joe Holstad told Axios. Trump does have to outsource his brains after all. True! General Kane is talented and highly valued member of the President Trump's national security team. The president listens to a host of opinions on any given issue and decides what, based on what is best for his pocketbook, the White House spokesperson and Kelly said in a statement. Trump decides what's best for the oligarchical Epstein class, and that's about it. Trump posted on Truth Social, because that's how we do diplomacy and foreign policy, that Kane would like to avoid war, but thinks it will be something easily won if necessary, even though that's not the impression that we were given, but okay. He has not spoken of not doing Iran or even fake limited strikes that I've been reading about. He only knows one thing and how to win, and if he is told to do so, he will be leading the pack. Fantastic. Fantastic. Kane has been the only military leader briefing Trump in recent weeks on Iran. CENTCOM Commander Admiral Brad Cooper hasn't been invited to the meetings and Trump convened on Iran and hasn't spoken to the president since the crisis started in early January. A crisis of our own doing, by the way. Cooper's predecessor, General Eric Correa, briefed both Trump and former President Biden on Iran. A senior administration officials confirmed Trump hasn't spoken to Admiral Cooper. Vice President Vance has also raised concerns about entanglement during internal deliberations in recent days. One source confirmed the VP has been raising questions about the the risks and complexity of the operation with military and national security officials, but denied he was outright opposed to striking Iran. Vance hopes the talks in Geneva on Thursday will produce a diplomatic breakthrough, but is not optimistic about the odds of a deal, a position shared by many other top officials. So again, all of this, okay, is pointing to a very possible strike on Iran, maybe this upcoming weekend, because Thursday's supposed to be the talks, right? It is unclear what exactly this maniac is planning to do, if anything. It is really unclear. But I guess we're gonna find out in a couple days. I guess we're gonna find out in a couple days. So that's cool. He's presenting information on both sides of the argument to help the president make an informed decision, according to another source familiar with the discussion. Meanwhile, Secretary of Little Marco has been sitting on the fence rather than advocating strongly for or against a strike. Rubio has historically been hawkish on Iran, but has been focused most of his energy in recent weeks on Venezuela and Cuba. Of course, that is his pet project. Witkoff and Kushner are planning to meet Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi on Thursday in Geneva. Both have been advised Trump that time is on his side and that his hand will get stronger with every day that passes. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Both have advised Trump that time is on his side, yada yada. The message is that Trump should see what he can get from the Iranians and pull the trigger if and when he decides diplomacy has lost momentum. A source with knowledge said Trump has been leaning towards launching a strike for several days, but agreed to give Witkoff and Kushner a bit more time for negotiations. Fantastic. Witkoff, another source said Trump insisted on more negotiations by Witkoff and Kushner because he wants to make sure all avenues are exhausted. Lindsey Graham is one of the main advocates in favor of military action in Trump's extended circle. Of course he is. Of course he is. He lamented in an interview with Axios on Saturday that many of Trump's advisors were counseling him to not bomb Iran. Fantastic. Capitalism does not work because if unemployment goes too low, it's automatic inflationary crisis. Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like capitalism creates the very thing that destroys it. Right? Marx talks about this. Capitalism essentially it creates its own destruction. Little Marco's gonna have to retire soon. Who knows? Who knows how long Little Marco's gonna be allowed to stay? Graham urged the president to ignore them and move forward with the strike, including in a phone call the two had on Sunday. Graham and other strike advocates around Trump, another way of putting it is the lunatics who are advocating for war with Iran, mostly outside of his administration, are concerned that as time passes, momentum will be lost and Trump will have to settle for a, quote, bad deal. The bad deal meaning no war. Another person advocating for strikes is Israeli Prime Minister, of course, Benjamin Netanyahu. He has been growing more concerned since the meeting, Trump 10 days ago, that the U.S. will stand down. Of course, a U.S. source who met Netanyahu last week said the Prime Minister left the meeting with Trump, feeling that he'd been unable to pull him towards his position. Quote, is he still with us? Netanyahu asked, according to the source. In his latest post back in Kane, Trump also wrote, I am the one that makes the decision. I would rather have a deal than not, but if we don't make a deal, it will be a very bad day for that country and sadly its people, because they are great and wonderful and something like this should never happen to them as he's making it happen to them. Jesus Christ. Manufactured war has been used over and over again to save capitalism. True. The bottom line, everyone has a job to do and does their job. Rubio isn't figuring out what planes to fly. Kane isn't worrying about the diplomatic fallout. The decision is to strike when and how or if at all has not been made, a senior administration official has said. So yeah, I mean it's all it's all leaning that it's all leaning towards a strike possibly happening this weekend, upcoming this weekend. That's what it looks like to me. Based on all available evidence. Great stuff. Fun times, fun times, fun times. All right, folks, we got the Environmental Coffee House video, and then we are out of here.
Today's story is the situation in New York with the FBI going after an Extinction Rebellion activist who hasn't even been active in a long time under NSPM 7. So it starts with
woke loser, you know, he's a woke loser. Looney Tunes loves to take on your favorite president, you know, he likes to hit him very hard. You know, with all the mainstream media now, these pathetic, you know, weak streamers like President, wow, I'm losing it, folks. Weak streamers like Looney Tunes and ADT, he's not funny. He's a complete wise guy, Cancel him now. Thank you for your attention to this matter. We'll find out a few years afterwards. Iran was never close to getting a nuke, and it was all a lie. 1,000%.
The Federal Bureau of Investigation agents, and at least one of whom works on counterterrorism, went to the home of a former member of climate activism group for questioning last week, potentially signaling a new escalation in the Trump administration's promise to criminalize nonprofits and activist groups as domestic terrorists. Two FBI
Oh, look, she's using the same pop filter that I have. Nice. I noticed also like a lot with these Shure MV7 mics. They do tend to do a lot of plosives. So yeah, absolutely a pop filter like that is 1000% necessary. Excellent show as always, amigo. Gotta go smash some reps. Thank you for stopping by, Kirkenstein's Monster. Appreciate it. You should get a Trump costume and do the entire stream with that voice. If I do, I will not have a voice within like the first 5 minutes of stream.
From one from New York's Joint Terrorism Task Force told a former member of Extinction Rebellion New York City they wanted to ask him about the group at his home upstate on Friday. An attorney for the group told The Intercept. The visit followed a prior attempt to reach him at his old address. The FBI's apparent probe of Extinction Rebellion New York City comes as the Justice Department ramps up its surveillance of activists protesting immigration enforcement, and the Trump administration creates secret lists of domestic enemies.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Just to be clear, like, we're probably all on it. Okay? Just to be clear, we're probably all on it. Just by virtue of our social media. So that kind of brings me to that public service announcement. Anything that would attract the feds, don't post on social media. Anything that would attract the feds to your comrades' Discord, to your comrades' I don't know, Reddit forums, don't do that. Don't do that.
Security Presidential Memorandum 7, or NSPM 7. Quote, I believe this to be a significant escalation of the criminal legal system against XR, and I find it very troubling, said, unquote, said Ron Kuby, the Extinction Rebellion attorney. This is usually the way we find out an actual investigation is underway, and it's often followed by other visits and other actions. The former Extinction Rebellion member, who asked to remain anonymous out of fear for his safety, said that the visit came after a phone call in January from a special agent that he assumed was a scam. Quote, I was skeptical the phone call was really from the FBI, but after I declined to speak with the agent, she said she was standing outside my door, unquote, he said. She was actually at the activist's former address, which he said made him additionally dubious. But last week, when the agent showed up at his current address, he said he saw the agent's business card through the door. Kuby confirmed that the agent's business card information corresponded to a current member of the FBI's New York Joint Terrorism Task.
My advice is not to use social media where your identity is known. I post... Yes.
A text message from the agent reviewed by The Intercept shows she identified herself and stated that she was at the former member's house to question him about Extinction Rebellion. Her name, title, and phone number match a known special agent on the task force, according to court records. So, reached by The Intercept, a public affairs officer for the New York FBI field.
Yeah, also, like, never answer questions. Don't answer questions. Don't answer anything. Especially if you've done nothing wrong.
Said,
Judgment-free zone,
per
welcome.
long-standing DOJ policy, we cannot confirm or deny the existence or non-existence of any investigation. The DOJ did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Extinction Rebellion New York City is a chapter of a loose international climate justice movement that does highly public direct actions like an April Earth Day spray painting over the presidential seal inside Trump Tower in Manhattan. Kuby said none of the group's actions are violent or rise above the level of misdemeanors and would not typically be of interest to federal counterterrorism investigators. The former member said he had not been involved in
Don't
any
even admit to
Extinction
that.
Rebellion
What are we
actions in
talking about?
2
Don't even admit
years.
to that. Like, no, we're a legal climate activist group that like to talk about climate change. Go away.
And hadn't participated in anything that he thought would send the FBI to his door.
I thought
All of
Extinction
our
Rebellion was too
actions are
radical at first.
incredibly
Nope, not radical enough.
Public, he said. He recalled that the agent said she had some questions about Extinction Rebellion New York City and that he wasn't in any trouble before the activist declined to speak and closed his door. Why the FBI's counterterrorism task force would investigate Extinction Rebellion is unknown, Kuby said. Quote, often the FBI starts with former members of a group or less central people to begin investigations, unquote, Kuby said. Quote, the fact that they repeatedly pursued this member and traveled hundreds of miles from his old address in New York City, well, this suggests a real investigative effort, unquote. Trump's September...
Yeah, ask them if you're being detained. If yes, tell them you'll say nothing until you have your lawyer, and if no, then until you've got things to do. And you don't want them to speak to them, and have a good day. And remember, the golden rule is to STFU.
Presidential memorandum dubbed NSPM 7 called for the National Joint Terrorism Task Force and its local offices to
All countries should declare a climate crisis now. I agree.
investigate a broad spectrum of progressive groups and donors for anti-fascism beliefs. A November FBI internal report obtained by The Guardian revealed that there were multiple active FBI investigations related to NSPM 7 in 27 locations, including New York, where the agent investigating Extinction Rebellion works. Trump's directive instructed joint terrorism task forces to proactively investigate groups and activists with vague language that civil liberty watchdogs say could easily criminalize protected speech and protest.
That's the point.
FBI agents also visited several climate activists affiliated with Extinction Rebellion and other climate groups in the Boston area last March, according to a local news report. The reasons for these visits remain unclear, and the activists involved said nothing came of them. The FBI's Boston division declined to comment
that's not
to
true.
the press at the time. After Extinction Rebellion,
If I may, I think that the reason is just intel. It's just information. Who you are. Who else do you know? It's information gathering. That's what it is.
New York City members protested New York Democratic Representative Tom Suozzi's town hall at a Long Island synagogue last month, objecting to his vote to increase ICE funding. Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights Harmeet Dillon posted on X that she would be investigating the protest.
That's a bare minimum if you don't want to do much about it. Yeah, I mean, well, that's the problem, right? Like, we're past the saying part. We need to be doing stuff. It's the doing part.
See whether federal law had been broken. None of these activists involved in the Suozzi protest have been contacted by federal investigators. Representatives for the group told The Intercept Suozzi did not reply to the messages. In 2023, then Florida Senator and current Secretary of State Marco Rubio wrote a letter to then FBI Director Christopher Wray and DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas asking them to bar members of Extinction Rebellion in the UK from the U.S. in response to a report that the group planned to protest at federal properties. Among other things, the group will allegedly block highways and disrupt federal properties, but violence and
Oh no!
terrorist acts cannot be discounted given the group's past threats, Rubio wrote in the 2023 letter. He also used similar language in proposed legislation against Antifa.
Already do more investigating than they've done for any of the Epstein class, apparently. True.
protests in 2022.
Antifa.
Nate Smith, an Extinction Rebellion activist who took part in the Swazi protest, objected to characterizations of the group's activism as terrorism. Is petitioning an elected official at a public event what makes America great or a federal offense? Smith said, quote, I get if you don't like it. That's half the point. But terrorism, unquote. There have been scattered reports of FBI agents visiting anti-ICE protesters around the country. While the FBI's interest in Extinction Rebellion remains unclear, the group pointed to Trump's NSPM-7 directive. We did not anticipate that we would be among the first groups of those who speak inconveniently to be targeted, Extinction Rebellion New York City said in
Are you guys aware of what's happening in Mexico? Yeah, it's not great. It's pretty bad.
Public statement.
Pretty bad out there.
We did not anticipate the level of capitulation from our country's hallowed institutions and political opposition. You know, thank you for The Intercept for that. Thank you to The Intercept for that. I find it quite a waste of taxpayer money for the FBI to do any of this. These groups are so ineffective, obviously, because if they were effective, would we be off fossil fuels? Maybe. Would we not be at 1.5?
Yeah, it's also like just this disdain. Like Trump particularly has a really like he has a lot of disdain for environmental groups. He in fact made a comment that Europe is being the two things that are affecting Europe the most are immigration and energy, and he's saying that the environmentalists are in control. You know, it's so bad. You know, the energy is so expensive. You know, they got the wind turbines. You know, killing the birds. He really has a deep antagonism to environmentalists. So that's probably where this is all coming from. And the fact that obviously they're going to be left-leaning, your leftists are just another layer to that.
See? I mean, I'm all for them trying, but none of these groups is violent. It's explicit, non-violent civil disobedience. The worst they do is inconvenience drivers by using roadblocks, blockades, infrastructure disruptions, and in the UK, it's been massive arrests. I don't know
windmills.
How much that
they cause cancer,
US, but they really, it's ridiculous. The FBI is supposed to be preventing domestic terrorism, like what's happening in the Trump Epstein files. You know, go after the White House. Protect critical infrastructure. Yeah. Like critical underage infrastructure. Mm-hmm. How about investigating interstate criminal conspiracies, which are things like the Trump administration's crypto scam?
Oh, yeah, but none of that. Yeah, when the criminals are in charge, the foxes are guarding the hen house kind of deal. It's kind of cooked, you know?
All of the things that they seem to do. Do you think it's a criminal conspiracy that our president sues everybody like the IRS for $10 billion? The FBI is supposed to be monitoring these threats. And there are no sabotage. See,
Warlady, who's this bird? Sandy from the Environmental Coffee House.
They're gathering intelligence and they're using informants, which also is something that with NSPM 7, I think we have to be careful of. They're doing digital monitoring.
Yep.
And they might designate people that would never even think of doing anything violent as domestic terrorists. It is creepy.
Who are you? I am me. Who are you?
Really creepy. In history, the 1960s, the civil rights groups, they were surveilled. And remember the anti-war activists, they were infiltrated. It was pretty serious. And then in the 90s, eco-terrorists. But you know, civil disobedience is not terrorism. And when you put those two together, this is chilling free speech, which is exactly what they want.
Yep, 1000%.
You know? To me, the domestic threats in this country are white supremacist violence.
Yeah, and this is also cemented by Trump's own law enforcement. White supremacist groups are the most persistent and deadly threat to domestic, with regards to domestic terrorism. What are you about? I'm about me. Are you
How
about
about
you?
the
What do you get up to?
anti-government militias and all those mass shooters and all the online radicalization? What about that? Doesn't the FBI have time for that? Or are they going to go after people that go in the street and go, okay, we don't want fossil fuels, to no avail, which, again, is very disheartening, actually, where we are. But it didn't work. We're about 25 years too late. But these climate activists, man, it's like, okay, these are misdemeanor bullshit things that they're doing. You know, is the FBI going
You could just listen to the stream.
after all those people that have been defacing Trump's star walk on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which seems to get debased on a weekly basis out in Hollywood? These people are certainly
I
not.
dodged this bullet by not being an activist of any kind. In fact, I don't even believe in activism as posited by liberals and anarchists. Well, I mean, liberals and anarchists, activism between a liberal and an anarchist are fundamentally two different things. But yeah, I mean, it depends on how you define it. Where are you from? I'm from here. Where are you from?
Climate activists really, they say, okay, we want to challenge fossil fuel expansion and all those corporate political donations that have bought every politician that takes money from the fossil fuel industry. Maybe have a little something to say about energy policy and infrastructure investment. But these are not security risks. And it's very sad. It's really very sad. I can't tell you enough that how
BCAD, welcome.
this to me is, I mean, why are we paying for this? The FBI targeting these people.
The only way we could effectively reduce greenhouse gas emissions is to invest in mass transit at a large scale like China. I agree. That is one way. The North UK across the pond. Well, listen, you're not going to find out if you just keep asking random questions. It's all. It's not really that difficult, honestly. Yeah, the Chinese hoax.
Are they really even that big of a thing?
Extinction Rebellion is actually not that big here. In fact, I didn't know they were here.
They're really not. It's.
I always thought that was more of a UK thing or a Europe thing.
Pathetic. I mean, okay, so it's a little obnoxious when they block infrastructure, streets. People get mad. But these are not federal crimes. They're just not.
Nope.
It's quite.
You're streaming on YouTube? Yep, you should
so
subscribe.
Stupid. It's just a waste. So what are we going to do about it? I mean, are they going to start coming after climate channels like mine? I called Ron Kuby and left a message. I'd like to talk to this guy. I think it would be a really interesting interview if he's
Personal
up
vehicle
for it.
ownership probably isn't viable.
But in the long run,
I would rather. I mean, I would love to live in a scenario where we can just have the nice public transportation system.
these people have been using nonviolent civil disobedience for years to try to demand rapid climate action, and it hasn't happened. It really hasn't happened. It's just such a waste. My God. It just shows you that Darwin is winning.
Let's start with what's happened over the past 4 or 5 days.
Whoa, I didn't tell you to autoplay that. Anyways, we did it, folks. We got through everything, actually. We got it. We got through everything. All right, folks. I'm exhausted. I need to get some food. I'm developing a headache, so I need to get some food. Oh no, Sam Cedar, what an effing nightmare. I know, jump scared me. I did not expect Sam Cedar to start playing. Night, y'all. Thank you so much for hanging out. We're ready. We're getting ready to say goodbye. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate all the support. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to the new folks hanging out. I appreciate it. Thank you for the follows and all that. Your support, it was what keeps this channel going. Thank you all. Thank you, Ladybug. Appreciate it. Thank you, Michael Hasser Heat, for modding the chat. Folks, hey, please go show some love to the mod Heat420_. They stream, by the way. You should go follow them. Stonks. Thank you all for being here. Sam Cedar's a complete joke. If you want to support the channel directly, check out the links. Check out the Substack, the merch store, !tip. Do all the things, folks. Join the Discord. And, of course, check out my show on This Space Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, every Tuesday. We'll be back tomorrow on This Space. If not, then Wednesday and Thursday here. Folks, as always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love y'all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one tomorrow around 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Appreciate it. Poggers! Imagine a public rideshare network to coincide with any public forms of mass transit. Imagine. Thank you all for being here. Please stay safe. Love y'all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye. Alright, folks, hang tight. We're heading out. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye.